Bringing the vision into a mission, this is Global Mission of Peace with the GoldFish Report on October 28th, 2015. I am Radagast, and I am joined by Louisa, our media outreach.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us.
Our European correspondent, Steve.
Hi, everybody. Good to be here.
The wonder from down under, Sanjay.
Okay.
Who's muted?
Who's muted?
Okay.
Let's see. Where do we find Sanjay? And
of course, we have two special guests. We have John with us, again, who was with us last week, and we're going to speak a little bit more about legal things and persons and birth certificates and things like that. Hello, John.
Hi, how are you all? Hello?
And a colleague, we have Martin with us, who will also be helping us expand on this concept and hopefully bring some enlightenment to what this process is. Hello, Martin.
Hello, everyone.
And our friend, the keen mind, the warm heart, the voice of the dragon, the ambassador. Welcome, ambassador.
Welcome, everyone. And again, I want to welcome John and Martin back. And then Martin is for the first time, but John has been here before. And so what we, wanted to do is that we had already a program on this. And basically what we want to do here is to try to spoon and feed people a little bit here with some more knowledge. And hopefully they can, get some value out of this and continue to do the research on their own hands to find out how the world really works. Okay. So I want to welcome you, John, and you could please introduce your colleague and friend, and we will start this journey together.
Well, hello, everyone. I'm John, and I'd like to introduce my favorite Martin. Like, they say your favorite Martian, but this is my favorite Martin. And he really has a lot of knowledge on what's really going on in the world of commerce and the world of equity. And equity is the unwritten law, and commerce is the written law. So, Martin, welcome aboard to the GoldFish Report. And last time I talked about just notice and how people just don't even notice what's really in front of them. So, welcome aboard. How are you?
Thank you. And I'm going to expand on just that point of notice, because I listened to your call last week, and I heard some people saying, well, here we have the President of the United States making all these executive orders, and well, where is he giving notice? Why aren't we being notified? Well, if you do the research and you actually look at the system and the way it's set up, they have a thing called the National Register. And in that National Register, you can see all the executive orders, and they put these executive orders in this National Register, and it sits there for 180 days. And if nobody rebuts it, nobody argues about it, nobody makes any claim against it, then it gets passed into law. And so we're all being noticed. Everything's out here. It's right in front of us. But because we aren't educated on the interworkings of the government system, and I want to emphasize something very especially about the word government. Everybody thinks that the word government is something that's for the people. Well, in 1946 or 47, there's a thing called the United States who copyrighted that word government and is only the one able to use that word. That really blew me away. What I am is a researcher. And I like to research the different systems that we live under. And I'm going to give you a basic background of what happened to me. A few years back, I had an incident where I lost my memory. I had to start over again. And when I was trying to find out who I was, I had relatives of mine put two pieces of paper in front of my face. And they said, "This is who you are." And I said, "I'm a piece of paper." And what they had handed me was, they had handed me a birth certificate from the hospital with a gold seal, the corporate gold seal from the hospital with 3 signatures on it, one from the court administrator, one from the nurse, and one from the doctor that delivered me. And then they handed me one from the state that I was born in. and it had my name on there and had my parents' name on it and everything, all that. And so I started doing an investigation of what these two pieces of paper meant. What did they mean? Well, the one I got from the hospital had my footprints on it and had my mother's thumbprints on it. Well, then the one I got from the state basically had a description of who I was, but they both had the same title at the top of it, called a certificate. Well, you get a car registration, and don't they issue you a title certificate? So I had to research the word certificate, and that's one of the things that we have to understand. And John pointed this out last time, was you got to notice the things that are going on around you. Do you understand what a birth certificate is? Do you understand the meaning of it? And most people say, well, it's to identify who you are. But if you read the fine print on mine, at the very bottom, it said it was made by the American Banknote Company. So I researched American Banknote Company. What is that? And it said that it is the oldest company in the United States that creates currency. Well, currency, isn't that what we use for buying things? Isn't that money? Isn't that currency? So then I got real curious about this birth certificate. So I called the state that I was born in, and I said to the state, I said, what does this number mean? They says, oh, well, that number means that in this county, that number 125 means you were the 121st person born, 125th person born in the month of March. In that county. I says, cool. Well, what's this number over here mean? Well, that number over here is the registration number that we have for our records showing when you were put into our system. And so then I asked, well, what's this over here? And I asked over here. And the next thing I asked, the very last question I asked him, I said, well, who claims ownership of the birth certificate? And they said, we do, and we'd be glad to give you certified copies. Well, let me ask you something. If you claim ownership of something, like your car or like your house, well, who pays the bills for the car if you claim ownership? Who pays bills to the house if they claim ownership? Isn't it the person who has possession? So I started thinking, well, if that's the case and they want to claim ownership, then why aren't they paying for my clothing? If they want to claim ownership of me, and they want to claim, why aren't they paying for my food? Why aren't they paying for my education? Why aren't they, if they're making this claim that they're the owners, well, the only problem is I've never made a claim disputing their claim that they're the owners. So again, look around and notice the things that are going on in your life. Notice your driver's license. Who claims ownership of it? What is that about? Why is the name on your driver's license in all capital letters? Remember, everything out here in my research that I've done is all wordsmithing. Everything has a meaning. Everything has a hidden meaning. Everything has multiple meanings depending on how you use it. So when you have these certificates, I go back to the word certificate. What's a certificate have? What's it mean? Well, a certificate is something that you use to put an item into a trust. You can't put your car into a trust, so you have to take and make a description of the car. It's the year, the model, the color, the amount of doors, the size of motor, the serial numbers, the VIN number, the license numbers. Then you put this description, and then you put it into a certificate, and then you put it into a trust. Well, that's what they've done with you. They've taken you and made an identical copy of your birth certificate from the hospital, and they've created this trust certificate, and they put it into their state trust. Once you understand the main thing you have to do is understand who you are. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's very interesting information, Martin. Tell me, what does that mean for the common person now? If they're suddenly confused listening to this, thinking, my God, what's with my birth certificate? What does that actually mean?
Well, if you do the research on a birth certificate, and you do the research on trust, and you understand the purpose and intent of a trust, and you understand the the different elements of a trust, and you understand. Now you have to understand, well, who are you in this trust? If they've created a trust and they put you into a trust, who are you? Well, there's 3 levels to a trust. You've got the grantor, you've got the trustee, and you've got the beneficiary. So by them being the creator of the birth certificate, they're the creator of the trust, right? So then what is their role? If you look in Corpus Juris Secundum, it says that all public officers are fiduciaries and trustees to the people. Okay, now you covered 2 elements. You got the grantor of the trust, you've got the trustee of the trust. Well, what's that leave for you?
All right. So what that means is that by you accepting or having a birth certificate within a system, you are a small cog in a very large system. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Right.
And what you're also saying, Martin, excuse me, I'm just going to jump in, is that you are basically slaves to the system too. Isn't that correct?
But you guys are missing it. What was the third element of the trust? You have the grantor.
The beneficiary.
Yes.
Who's the beneficiary? Yeah.
That's you.
All right. But how do we benefit?
Now you're asking the question. You have to learn how the system works, and you have to take control of that trust. You see, this is what a lot of people try to do out here. They try to want to get out of the system. They want to get away from the system. They want to give back their Social Security card, give back their driver's license, give back all this stuff and get away from it. No. Learn how to take control of the beneficiary and make that trust beneficial to you. That's what trust law is all about. Now they've created, and so what they do now, and I've heard, and I have several different variations on what they do. Some say that in some states, they take out a $100,000 life insurance policy the day you were born. They put that into the trust, and then as that policy builds, they use that resources in that trust. Think about it this way. When you get injured on the job and you claim injury benefits, right? Where's that money come from? You think it comes from taxation. It's not coming from the taxation. It's coming from the securities they've created in that trust to take care of you in case something happens to you. The state doesn't want to take care of you. They don't want to take funds out of their state in order to take care of you. They have to develop a way of having some kind of income in there that they can then use in case something happens to you, and it doesn't take away from their state budget.
So that would also imply that there's an account somewhere that we don't have access to. Is that right?
It's a trust.
Yes.
Not an account, it's a trust.
All right. So where is the trust based?
Where were you born?
Well, we're dealing with different...
No, you're not. You got a birth certificate?
Yes, it says where I'm born.
Did I just say birth certificate? Did you have a birth certificate?
So that's the jurisdiction. Where I was born is the jurisdiction, wherever it is in the world.
So wherever it is in the world, right? That is the root. That's the root. Now, in this country, United States, we have the county, the cities, and then you have the cities, the counties, and then you have the states. Well, the states have control of the birth certificate because I called the state vital statistics and asked them, and they claimed ownership.
And Martin, last night, I'm sorry to interrupt, didn't we talk about the fact that the birth certificate itself represents that you're a member, that you're a beneficiary of the trust by virtue of that name certificate. And the only way to enter into a trust is by a certificate. Isn't that the process?
No, the certificate is evidence of trust property.
Trust property.
Trust property. That's what a certificate represents, is trust property.
So it's ownership of an object.
So what Steve was saying is that if you're trying to show that you are a member of if you're a beneficiary, you're a member of how do you prove? That was the question that you had. How do you prove that you're a member of this trust?
That's what
and I'm saying that the birth certificate itself is that proof. isn't
Okay.
it? Or am I misunderstanding?
No, it's the basic proof. Now you have to go to each state or each place, wherever that birth certificate is held, and find out how they use it. You have to learn the system that they use to monetize that certificate. Now, I've had people do this in the past that I've worked with, that they've sent their bills to the county treasurer for payment. They sent their credit card bill, they sent their cable bill, these are all past due bills. And the sheriff contacted them and says to them, "Why are you sending these bills to the county treasurer?" And this gentleman said to the sheriff, "Why are you trespassing on my arrangement with the treasurer? You have no right to get yourself involved in my arrangement." Now, what happened was those bills were never seen again.
Were they paid? Were they paid though?
Yeah, they were. He never got another statement from the credit card company. He never got a statement from the cable bill, and I think the other one it was he was paying on a share timeshare or something like that. He never got another bill from them ever again.
Now this is starting to sound practical. I like it.
But the problem is, he knew how to defend himself. He knew how to talk to the proper party because he understood the system and how it worked. Okay. So, go ahead.
Or one question. Look, you're obviously talking about, okay, this is not solely a U.S. system.
We have a train here.
There's a lost train.
So it's at the train stop.
So this is not just a U.S.-centric system, is it? This is an international system?
Anyone that has a certificate.
Well, every single country in the world has a certificate.
If they do, then they're monetizing you as, okay, I'll go back to a very simple question.
I want to one important thing to mention here. I do not have a birth certificate. Okay.
All right.
Yes. I do not have a birth certificate. But my son do. I do not.
You were born with a midwife.
No, I was, the firstborn child in my family, but of some reason, my nation do not issue birth certificates.
So they don't monetize them the same way other nations do. That's why I say it all depends on where you're at, and where you live, as to who, how the system works. That's what one of the things back to what at the beginning. That's what you got to do, is you have to research the systems that affect you. I got a book one time, and the book said, you need control. And I sit down and I thought to myself, well, okay, so what controls me? Oh, wait a minute. I got a legal system that controls me. I got a medical system that controls me. I got a social system that controls me. I got a monetary system that controls me. I need to learn how to reverse that to where I'm in control and not them, or those systems are in control of me. An easy example of why I know that the systems are here and they're so powerful is think about it. In the early times, how many indigenous tribes were on the planet? Now think about how many indigenous tribes are on the planet today. Why is that? Because an indigenous tribe doesn't need a system. They're self-sufficient. The system has to have people in order for it to operate. If people became self-sufficient, we wouldn't need systems. But because we want to be enabled all the time, we want others to do the things we need to do for ourselves, we have systems.
And Martin, with regards to those indigenous people, 90% of them didn't have birth certificates because they didn't register. Kids happened out in the middle of nowhere. They never went to the major cities to register.
Did they need it?
No.
Exactly. They were self-sufficient. But in order for them to operate in our system, they had to register themselves into the system.
Okay, Martin, it's impossible these days to do anything without identification, without a passport, without a credit card. I mean, how can you exist without this?
Did I say without? I didn't say without. I said you learn how to take control of them.
Okay.
Yeah, people need to educate themselves. That's what you're saying, Martin. I mean, it's about doing research and, like Jesus said, my people will perish for lack of knowledge. And is this what you're talking about?
Exactly. Because, and again, I said this before. I says, would you create a system that wasn't beneficial to you? So if systems were created to benefit someone, why don't you learn what that system was to benefit for and make it beneficial to you?
I want to interrupt something here. I want to go back to the trust. There's the three elements that you mentioned in the trust. One of them is a trustee. And part of the reason that people get themselves into so much trouble is they don't understand what a trustee is. A trustee is somebody that has something in their possession that they have to pay for that they don't own. For example, if you get a ticket, that ticket is in your possession, say a speeding ticket, that you have in your possession, that you have to pay for, that you don't own. If you're the grantor and you're the grantor settler, you can be the beneficiary, but you can't be a beneficiary and a trustee. It's divided. The title is divided. So Martin, can you go into how you have an equitable title and you have a legal title and how that works and with the grantee and the grantor and all four parts of that?
Well, one of the things you have to understand is that until you understand who you are, you have been given away your power every time you sign a document. What I mean by that is when you go, let's say most people know what a loan is, and they go to the bank and they get a loan. All right, somebody shoves a stack of papers underneath your nose and says, "Here." Now, that stack of papers, does that have any credibility at that point? No. But once you put your signature on that line, you've now brought that document to life. It's your energy that puts the value in that document. Now go back to the traffic citation. If you know properly how to sign that traffic citation, you can then be able to transfer or assign that certificate to another entity by your qualified signature. And what I mean by qualified signature is you sign it as authorized agent, you sign it as grantee, you sign it as grantor settler. But you have to understand, I am giving you a very, very thin synopsis of the knowledge you'd have to defend the things I'm saying. If you ran out and did what I'm saying right now without having the knowledge to defend, you're going to get thrown in jail. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. You sign a traffic citation, you say you're the authorized agent, they're gonna look at you and say, okay, you're the authorized agent for who or for what? And if you don't have that answer, they're gonna say, okay, well, let's lock you up in a loony bin for a while and see if you understand what it means to come into my court and tell me you're something you don't have any idea of how to defend.
Martin, isn't it the case that all the judges know all about this? They all know how this works.
They're trained. Yeah, they're trained to do this. They're trained.
So when the average person who's watching this thinks they have certain rights, and they really don't. It's, and of course they hire lawyers, and then they waive their right to things, and they don't realize that they're doing that by hiring a lawyer, but then they don't have the knowledge to go in there and defend it. We really have no choice, do we?
No, we don't, because we've been enabled all our lives. Ever since going into preschool, we've been enabled all the way through because we've been taught to be enabled. We've been taught to be compartmentalized into one area and not understand all the things that are going on around us.
Well, for people out there who feel this is complicated and overwhelming, what should they start if they want to learn and inform themselves? Where could you direct them? Where would be a good place for them to start looking? That these things just are like hiding in plain sight. But where would you suggest people kind of go to start looking and noticing, I should say?
One of the interesting books you might start with, and that's one of the things I have to emphasize most of all, you're going to have to do a lot of reading. And I mean a lot of reading. And if you think you're going to do it on the internet, I have to tell you, you got another thing coming, because I found information on the internet that I go down to the library and get the same book in the library, and the stuff that's on the internet has been altered. It's been to lead you down another path that is nowhere near what the book actually says. So The internet, I don't take validity in the internet. I take it to a grain of salt to get my wheels moving. But if I really want to understand what it is I'm researching, I go to the book, the source, and then look at what was said in the source. Now, one of the good books you want to get is from the government printing office. It's the Styles Manual. And that'll tell you what the different styles are of different types of spelling, the different types of capitalization, punctuation. That explains to you a lot of how the U.S. corporate government likes to style their writings. That'll give you an understanding. That'll give you a starting point as to looking at different ways that words, and look up wordsmithing. You know, the English language, capitalization of words, the non-capitalization of words, the punctuation of words, the hyphenation of words. All these different things have meaning. That's why on your driver's license you have an all-cap name. You get a letter from the IRS, it's usually your first name has got a capital letter at the beginning, and then it's got your middle name with a period, and then it's got your last name with a capitalization on the first letter. That's how the IRS identifies you. Your Social Security card, it identifies you in an all-cap name. Why? Why are there different ways of spelling your name? Why are there different ways of identifying you? How do you identify yourself? You know, now this is interesting because under the United Nations Charter, which we're all a part of because the United States is a member, it says we have the right to self-determination. Under Article 13 of their declaration, I think it's the Declaration of the United Nations, under Article 13, it says we have the right to self-determination. But under the rules, if you include one, you exclude another. So if you include you're a U.S. citizen, and you come back and try to tell people that no, I'm not, I'm this, you have to exclude the U.S. citizen part and say that, you know, I'm over here, I'm this person here, or you identify me as being this corporate entity, being an all-cap name. Well, I didn't agree to that, but you did, because you, under the rule of acquiescence, silence is acceptance. If you never object to anything, you agree.
This is trickery. This is trickery.
Like I said,
this is smokes and mirrors.
Absolutely.
It's corporations. It's all corporates out here trying to, if you look up every entity you have any relationship with, you will find they have a Dun & Bradstreet number. You will find they have a Mantis number. And I'm talking about the police station, talking about the post office. I'm talking about your courthouse. I'm talking about your lawyers. I'm talking about everybody out here is in a corporate setting. We are under corporate law. We live under corporate law. Why? Because we've acquiesced to the point of our name being allowed to be spelled in a certain manner, meaning corporation.
Martin, we can't know this at 7 years old or at 5 years old, and we spoke in our last interview when John was talking about this, that this is just down and dirty. This is unfair. I understand that people really don't come into their adulthood mind until around 20 or so, maybe later for some, but honestly I think that's the age of accountability, is 21. But this is, there's really no way. And if your parents don't know, then you're pretty much out of luck. There just has to be some sort of expectation, some reasonable expectation that you can find out. And it's not possible when you're a minor. It's just not. So, there just seems to be so unfair and so stacked against, anyone's ability. It's extremely complicated and convoluted. And, it's the one thing that we can do is kind of just make people aware. We're not here to prove anything. This is not a court. We're not here to do it for you either. But we're here to just kind of, present the information, help people to wake up, because you have to do it yourself. We're giving you directions on where to go and where to look and how to do it, but you really have to do it yourself. So how can really they get away with this with no reasonable expectation that people are, could be aware of it and be subjected to this kind of domination and control without the chance of really a fair chance, in fact, without informed consent. It's not informed consent, and so it's really about
why do you say it's
advantage of people.
Okay, hold on a second. Why do you say it's not? Why do you say it's not informed consent? Did you ever? Okay, you're dealing with a bank, right? You go down to the bank, right? Right, and you walk in the bank, right?
Okay.
Do you ever go pull the corporate charter of the bank and understand what the bank means and what it does?
Don't usually do that.
But yet you walk in there and you want their services, but then you say they do something weird and you say, hey, that's not fair. But did you go down and research what the bank does and what it means and what their standing is?
I get you. I hear what you're saying, but a minor shouldn't be expected to do that. Okay, because they don't have the age of accountability. And I think there's something to be said for that. And since they pull the trick that has to be until you're 7 years old, you have to announce yourself as a live human being. How can you address that?
Where did that come from?
That's been talked about.
See, but what evidence do you have that that's something that has any validity? What do you mean 7 years old? Are you saying that because they claim abandoned property?
Regarding the maritime law?
Okay, well then again, if you're going back to that, then what about the fact that on the birth certificate, the mother is the informant, informing the state that that you were born?
Okay, well, I mean, we do have some free will, but I say for a minor, you can't expect a minor to know this and to be able to, understand that they're part of this system.
Well, see, that's as parents, we know something. We know something is wrong. We have this feeling. This is where it started with me. I had this feeling I didn't like. I'll give you an example of what got me started researching way back in the 80s. I was the shop steward for a print shop. And there was a gentleman there. He'd been working for this company for 22 years. And he was going to retire. And a week before he went to retire, he fell off a ladder and shattered his hip. Okay? So then he was on sick leave or on injury leave, and his retirement date come up. And then 2 weeks after that, he wasn't released from the doctor to go back to work. And 2 weeks after that, he wasn't released to go back to work. And when he did get released, the company came to him and said, oh, well, if you'd have come in 24 hours ago, you would have been eligible for retirement. But since you weren't here 24 hours ago, according to our rules, you're not eligible for your retirement after 22 years working for us. That infuriated me. That got me to realizing there is something wrong here, that a company is going to, because a guy had an accident in your building, that you're not going to protect this person, or you're not going to even do anything. And that's what got me thinking about the systems back then. That got me thinking about how these systems are beneficial for companies, but not beneficial for individuals. And that's one of the reasons why these multi-level marketing companies are hated so badly by the brick and mortar companies, because a multi-level marketing company is basically like a profit sharing company, where these other ones don't want to share their profit with their employees. They want to pay them a base salary and that's it. And they want to take as much money from them as possible. So by that gentleman not reading the policies of the company he worked for, he was unaware that 24 hours had passed and he couldn't collect his retirement. And that's why I'm saying it's going to take for us to wake up as a society.
So this is a dangerous thing for us not to know, basically. That's what you're saying. I mean, I only have a cursory understanding, and the first time I came across it was when somebody sent me an email with a link, because I'm Australian, and he sent me a link that the Commonwealth of Australia is a registered corporation in Washington, in the United States.
In
1601 Massachusetts Avenue.
Yes, and so is Russia. The Republic of Russia is registered in Washington, D.C. You know,
it's unbelievable.
Okay, you're an Australian, right?
Yeah.
Have you studied the history of Australia? Have you gone back and looked at the ancient books that came out of Australia? Because you guys in Australia have one of the most knowledgeable people when it comes to the persecution of people in the planet. Because what you guys were at the beginning, you were a penal colony for England. And everybody that argued against England and didn't want nothing to do with England, they put on a ship and they sent them down to Australia. And if you look at your ancestry, you're going to discover all the things that England was doing to the people back then. Again, if we don't learn history, we're bound to repeat it.
That's a good point. But I mean, again, how can, minors be expected to know this? I mean, not everyone has parents when they're minors. And so for unfortunate circumstances, it just seems that we were made to be slaves, and damn it, we're going to be slaves. I mean, that is just, we are designed to be slaves, and there is no getting around
assets.
No, we're slaves too.
Well, as an asset, see, that's what I said. When you go to a company and you go to look for a job, what's the department you go to?
Yeah, the human resources department.
Human resource. Well, now put those words. Now think about the definition. Think of the definition of those words. Human resource.
Yeah.
Think about the wording around you.
This goes back to notice. It goes back to the first thing that we talked about. We are in Rome, they call it bread and circus. People would rather look at, right now we got the World Series going on. How many people are listening and watching the World Series? How many people are looking at the GoldFish report and looking at how they can better themselves, wake up? It's bread and circus.
Are you saying that we need to go to law school? Is this where we're going to ultimately find this? Or are we going to find this in law school?
No. You're not gonna, I talked to an attorney, and they said they don't teach you equity, and all they teach you about in law school is equity concerning property value or the equity in your possession. They don't teach you the law of equity as it is based between you and I in personam. They don't teach that, because and there's a great book by a gentleman by the name of Pomeroy, and he said back in the early 1700s that he said 100 years from now you won't even recognize equity, and here we are.
Martin, please give us 3 books, just 3 books to start with.
Well, at the end of this tape here, I gave a link to 2 different people that I studied with, and there's a book on Gibson. Pomeroy. That's advanced work. But there are 2 links that I gave to Louisa. One's on commerce, a man that has a lot of knowledge on commerce, and another one that has a lot of knowledge on equity. But Gibson is the book that you want. And Martin, you might want to talk about.
You know what? I'm going to give you guys a book, and this book is a book just to wake you up. I just realized I had this book. It's written by these people just on this exact subject, on how to show you what's going on in the world. I mean, it is so amazing that. See, here again, I have a belief system, and my belief system says that there's a belief system out there that there's a firmament that protects the earth. All right. Well, a lot of people call it there's an ozone layer, then there's the other layer below that is supposed to, that's what they're talking about. I don't believe that. I believe that's one form. I believe, all right, that we as individual people have the ability to take negative energy, convert it to positive energy to protect the earth. And so when you come across and you start saying corruption, and you start saying fraud, what are you spouting? You're spouting negativity. It's not, you stop creating this energy within you that's negative, and start learning how to take that negative energy, accept that negative energy, and convert it into positive energy. And we'll be able to change this whole dynamic that we live in into a positive framework. But until we do that, you're going to keep going down this rabbit hole of corruption. Oh, they can't, that's unfair. Oh, why did it? And every time you do that, all you're doing is spouting negativity.
Martin, I'm very glad you said that, because where the attention goes, the energy flows. So instead of concentrating on the current system, we just need to work, instead of destroying it, we just need to concentrate on what we want. Is that what you're saying?
Create your own world.
Yep.
What do you see? What do you see in front of you that you want to have happen? Create that world and then make it happen individually. Then we'll come together as collectiveness, because enough people will have the same thought process. We'll come together collectively. But first, it starts with us individually.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
And the more people that do it, the sooner it will happen.
Yes.
Well, thoughts are energy. Thoughts are energy, and thoughts are consciousness. And these things, we don't have access to really that. There's some information out there about how this really works, but for those who are just learning about this, we manifest. So what Steve said was very true. What you focus your energy on is what you attract. It's the law of attraction. And so, having said that, I'd like to hear what the ambassador might have to say about how we might be able to get some relief from this. Is there a way to turn this around through the law of attraction or any other means? The ambassador, is he with us?
Yeah. He's just.
I think he come back.
He needs. Yeah, we need to give him 5 minutes before.
Okay. We'll come back to that question.
Just on the topic, but while we were talking about it, remember the other day we were talking about illnesses and stuff like that. It's exactly the same thing. When we actually start saying, well, there's a possibility that you have this, the possibility you have cancer, we start wishing illnesses onto people. Exactly the same theory. Right, so I can see now the theory of that is exactly the same. So what he's saying is we've got to take the negative and turn it into a positive is pretty awesome.
It's like the 100 monkeys. Have you heard the story of the 100 monkeys? And where there was an island where the monkeys started to wash the fruit on one island, and on the other side of the island, the monkeys picked that up, and then 100 or 200 miles away on another island, the energy of the positiveness, we create that. And Martin's absolutely right, and I can see everybody shaking their head that we have to start going back into the positive, because the quantum of the positive is so powerful, and we can't look for other people to do this. We have to do it. Martin and I, we're not attorneys, we're not lawyers, we're just students of knowledge. And we want to do the positive thing. And just like everybody here that's on this panel, we have to do it for ourselves. We have to create that energy that's positive, and people will then pick that up. And that's where my energy's at, and I know that's where your energy's at, everyone.
Well, what you're saying is to... Oh, go ahead, Sanjay.
John, one of the funny things, we keep talking about lawyers, right? But people forget the corporations law and the equity law and all these laws are actually not with lawyers, they're with accountants. And this is why we don't make the link between the two, because we keep going down to attorneys who do the settlement of things, but they're not actually the keepers of the things. The accountants are the keepers of the things, the auditors are the actual people that use the law, and they've separated the tasks so we can't connect the dots very well.
That's true, Sanjay. That's hopefully what we can do on GoldFish Report, is help people to connect the dots, because it is very complicated, exactly like you're saying. And I think that through quantum entanglement, we can, have this mass consciousness effect if we do try to focus on, what we want to create. Because we do have the choice. We can focus on the negative energy to fight the old, or we can focus our energy to create the new. It's not easy to really, I don't know if it's possible to do both at the same time, probably not. So you have to kind of choose which side you're on, really, if you really want to make this change. And we did have, we had this really wonderful, metaphysical teacher who had come and visited the GoldFish Report, named Bo, and she explained that she goes into quantum, and that there's ways that we can access this in our consciousness, and that we all have the ability to do this. This is from the ancient mystery schools and things where this information's really been suppressed, and we really would like to hear from our viewers as well, who may be knowledgeable on this. leave comments in our comment section about the kinds of things maybe you have found out and have discovered or unearthed or researched and found out as well, because it is about sharing. What we're trying to do here on the GoldFish Report is wake people up and share the information. If this is information you know, then you don't, then share it with somebody that you know doesn't know it, and just keep that going. And
well, I mean, just looking at our parent organization, which is the Global Mission of Peace, the shift and change is a very big thing with us. We keep talking about the shift and change in people. And also the other thing, that one of the aims and visions things is, if we change, then the world will change, you know. So it has to start with us first. And that's the theme for today. It seems that everyone is saying the same thing, echoing the same thing. You have to look at it in like a cellular level.
Right, and the ambassador talks about God consciousness, and I think this is kind of the same thing that we're talking about, this quantum entanglement in the quantum field, accessing that and kind of rising above that. And I think, as Martin said in the beginning, it's about how we treat each other, the trust that you have with your Creator, the trust that you have with God. It's very true. I mean, you can really almost see no purpose for religion if you have this trust with Creator on an individual basis. And then you can almost see religion, as a created as a form of just more control, and not necessarily providing what we think it's providing. Because if we all individually understand we have a trust with Creator and we're ultimately going to be held accountable for our deeds, then it makes it then that when you live your life, if you do something to hurt somebody, that you're going to be held accountable for it sooner or later. And so it just seems like, though, that there are the oppressors that are here that created these different religions to divide us, to keep us in the negative, to keep us in duality, to keep us fighting, to keep us under control, and to keep us from really understanding who and what we are. And I think that ultimately, this really does lead to who and what we are. And why is there so much, you said, Martin, in the beginning, why would you create a system that wouldn't benefit yourself? And the thing is, we need to wake up. We need to realize that that's what's going on, and we can rise above that, especially on a consciousness level. We may feel like we're here. We are here on the planet. We're not going, unless you can leave the planet. We're here, and this is the system that we have to deal with. And we can, continue to be ignorant of it, or we can maybe on a collective scale try to do what we can to change it. And so one by one, little by little, we try to learn and educate ourselves. What is this Christ consciousness? What is it all about? And whenever the ambassador does come back and can comment on this, and why is it so important? And I think that this is why we're talking about it, to really free ourselves from this slavery. And I want to ask if anybody has any comments at that time.
Yeah, the main important thing is not to be a slave by consent. Okay? And that is the most important thing. It's not to be a slave in consent. Whatever thing they do to you, you don't consent. That's basically a traumatization against you. They're committing, unlawful things on you. But you should not complete, you should not propitiate. And this is what I said so many times. Everyone that watched this program should sit and think, where am I? Maybe I'm an attorney, maybe I'm a doctor, maybe I'm a judge, maybe I am a accountant, maybe I'm a banker, maybe I'm a vice president of the United States. And sit down and think over this. And then ask yourself through the Creator, is this the truth? Is this the honest and right way to do against people? And if it isn't, then people, please come together and stop this tyranny once and for all. Okay, Radagast?
Thank you. Well said. I was just what Martin had said earlier. There's holding about, it's about coming, for me, is about trusting each other. Because the government, in many ways, what the government has done is it's kind of inserted itself as, we'll protect you because you can't depend on each other. And through divisions, whether they're political divisions, religious divisions, any kind of divisiveness, it does separate us. I mean, I've gotten in a lot of trouble in discussions with people who try, oh, the evil cabal, this, the evil cabal. Yeah, okay, yeah, they're bad. They're not nice people. But they're few in number, and we're billions. And so the only reason it works is because they're organized and we're not organized. And we tend to let governments organize us, and it really comes, I mean, the word trust has been like a central word here. And so, and again, like we get what different words mean, but if we start to trust each other, and we can't trust each other until in our own heart, we know that we're going to be there for each other. Until we really can be honest and go, you know what? I mean, I have to be there when somebody needs me to my ability. Nobody's expecting you to do what you can't do. But there's so many things we can do for each other that we don't do for each other. And I really feel that, it's about rebuilding trust with each other as human beings, that we can band together and realize who we don't need, because I really feel we need each other. Humanity needs each other. Nations need to be friends with each other. That's what I like about what President Xi of China said about the win-win scenario for nations. The concept of sovereignty, whether or not it's a technical, real sovereignty.
Oh, see, Radagast froze a little bit there. Hopefully we'll get Radagast back any second. What about the idea of in God we trust?
Sorry.
Oh, are you there, Rad? Okay.
Yeah, and that's what I was getting to. In God we trust, that's where we kind of all source is like the creator, and I need to represent basically heaven and earth comes from us. Like to me, if you think of heaven as a kingdom, the kingdom has subjects. Well, you're going to get the kingdom of heaven when you have the subjects of heaven living in it, and that's going to create. There needs to be a little radical reorganization of how we view ourselves, and I really think we should always be, like what the ambassador said, at checking in with the creator about everything. Because we will get an answer. It's not going to be a black hole of no answer. You'll get answers. And the thing is whether or not you can live with that answer and find a way to work it in. And if we all were doing this collectively, we would see the shift and change. I mean, the really big shift and change is within us. And stop being victims of the cabal. I mean, yeah, it's rough the way it is, but victim is a powerless state. To be empowered as a child of the creator means, okay, I'm a little alone here in this awakening. Now I need to find other people. And that's what I feel Global Mission of Peace is about. What this whole movement is about kind of saying, hello, I'm here to other people. Hi, can we find a way to get together? Because we need to come together to fix a lot of the problems that we have here.
Well, what about that, Martin? What about in God we trust on our money? What is that?
Okay.
What is that there for? I'm sure you have
Think
a good
about
explanation about this.
In God we trust. Well, now you talk about the cabal, right? And you talk about the different meanings of different things. What if God in their eyes is an anagram? In gold, oil, and drugs we trust.
Mm.
That's why I stopped using that. I started using the creator. I stopped using that word. Because I have and you know what? When you have these are my opinions. Remember this, okay? I don't want to piss anybody off or anything, but when you start talking about God, then I feel like I'm a servant. And when I talk about my creator, I'm talking about my father. I'm talking about the creator of a trust, and then I'm the beneficiary of everything that was given to me freely by my creator. He gave me the land, he gave me the earth, he gave me the air, he gave me the water, he gave me everything I need to provide for. Everything I need is already here, given to me by my creator. But he wasn't I don't bow down to him. I appreciate him. I'm grateful to him. Or her, I don't know, whatever entity it is that created me and gave me this opportunity to have this experience, I am grateful for. And even if it's hard and suffering, you don't know what feels good until you feel pain, right? So, okay, accept that you have pain, understand it's a feeling, understand that you don't desire that feeling and convert it into happiness, convert it into positive energy. All right, that's why I went back to that matrix energetic, going back in your mind to a time in your life when your knees didn't hurt. Okay, I was 8 years old. I was jumping up and down. I was running around. I was doing all crazy things. Now what do? I'm 58 years old. I jump up and down. I run around. I do crazy things. Why? Because what's it saying? If we go back to the scriptures, in one of the statements that was made, look for the good in all things. Stop looking and trying to find things that are bad. Stop looking and trying to find the things that upset you, that make you angry, that make you disgusted, that make you stop looking for those things, because you're going to find them. Start looking for all the good things that are in stuff. And when you're looking for the good in everything, right, you have the ability then to breathe in that goodness and transfer it into positive energy. They say that your cells in your body, in order to cure cancer, it's two things: oxygen and electricity. So when you have a moment in your life when the hairs on your arms stand up and you just have this really excited feeling, your body is putting electromagnetic energy through the cells in your body. I do this 2 to 3 to 4 to 5 times a day. I just get excited. Woo, like I am right now. Whoa. And I send these electric impulses through my body. Why? To kill the cancer, to rejuvenate the electrical cells in my body. These are the things we have to do as individuals, because what happens? My neighbor comes across and says, why are you always smiling? Why are you always happy? Now he wants to know why. I said, well, here, I'll show you. I got control of this. I got control of that. I got control of this. And he says, well, how'd you do that? I studied this. I studied that. I studied this. I went and did this, right? I had an attorney one time say something to me that would just crack me up. He says, are you practicing law without a license? I said, no, I'm not practicing law at all. I'm administering law. He took 2 steps back and went, oh, and walked away.
That's it. It's hard to learn how to, beat the system from within.
Not about beating it. It's
I know that's a bad choice of words. It's a bad choice of words. I couldn't think of it.
Understand the system.
very, very good. It's very good. There you have it.
That's it. It's a whole new way of thinking, because you've been trained all your life, to compete with other people, to have conflicts, resolutions done by other people. Oh, mommy, this guy's beating up on me. So now you're depending on someone else, and you get trained to do that. Instead, my dad said, go take care of it. My dad, I was like 10 years old. This stuck in my head. I said to him, I said, can I go do this? And he goes, you know the difference between right and wrong. You decide. I was 10. What did that do? That gave me accountability. He wasn't accountable for what I did. I was accountable. I had to make a decision. Was I going to do this? What would happen? What would be the consequences if I did this? Is it going to be good or bad? He made me think. He says, whoa. He says, hey, you know the difference between right and wrong. You decide.
You know, there's something that Martin's saying here that's really important, and that is that in admiralty law, there's always a conflict. It's a conflict. There's always got to be a winner and a loser. In equity, it's equitable. And in equity, it's a whole different way of thinking. It's like you think to the left or you think to the right. And part of admiralty, and that's what we live in, is that there's got to be a winner. There's got to be a loser. It's like when they have these, like for example, right now the World Series. You got the 2 best teams, but the team that loses is going to feel worse than the worst team that played all year, because there's a winner and a loser. But in equity, there's no winner or loser. It's equitable. And it's our mindset. And that's really what we're talking about. And that's really, I think, what Martin and everyone here and the ambassador is talking about. We have to change our mindset and start thinking for ourselves, and to realize that we are the ones that are creating everything, not some entity outside of ourselves.
Okay, this is an awful lot for people to swallow, process, and digest here. Everybody needs to go get, a sandwich or something. It looks like a lot of information to digest, and it's complicated. Yes, Sanjay?
Hey, Martin. So you know how we're talking about programming? and then a few being very well organized. When we look at it, that day at Mount Sinai when Jesus Christ was crucified, right, there was more Christians than there was Roman soldiers. But that day when we surrendered our will and did not actually overthrow those soldiers, they realized that they could have power over us if they're organized. And since then, they've always used that.
Mm. You have to organize, you're saying, Sanjay, right?
Yep. Each individual
Yes.
changes and unites with this quantum, and then it just goes viral. It's like what they say in media these days, viral. It's gone viral. On Twitter, it's gone viral. Well, this is what it is. We have to become good and then make it viral. Like everyone else has got to become contagious with it. Like, I mean, we didn't do that in Mount Sinai. There was only 2,000 Roman soldiers, and there was thousands of people. And we let Jesus be crucified, and we go, well, then they went, okay, well, this is the Messiah, the God that everyone talks about, the entire Christian world. But they stood there and watched him being crucified by 2,000 soldiers with sticks and, like blades and stuff. That's it. They didn't have Uzis or bombs and stuff.
Well, I have to say this is an awful lot to digest, and we're coming close to the end here. And I want to just ask everybody if they have any closing comments or questions that they'd like to make. Steve, did you have anything closing, any comments that you wanted to make, and like food for thought for people who have been watching this?
Yeah, for me, this is a large part of the puzzle. It's just one part, though. And I think just to understand that there's been a deception on every single level in society, religion, the laws we live under, the financial system. It's all been twisted and turned against us, or it's it's there, put in place for us not to see unless we choose to see it. That's all. So we just need to do some investigation and to wake up, and that'll change it, basically.
Seek and ye shall find.
Mm. Yeah, but when we find it, what do we do with it? And, I think that's kind of the next things. Everyone's probably going to scratch their head by the end of the video and say, but what do we do about it? And so I think that, we can continue this conversation. We're not here to tell people what to do. I mean, maybe collectively we could find an answer to it. I'm not saying that we have the answers, but we definitely are trying to provide the information and some food for thought for people, and also, other people maybe, try to stimulate some other conversations, have other people start having conversations, and let this go viral. Like you're saying, let it go viral. I wish this would go viral, because then we could all kind of have this great awakening. John, did you have any final comments you want to make before we close up?
Well, I just wanted to thank Martin, who is just a world of knowledge and positivity, and just that he's a student, and like I am, of knowledge and a seeker of truth. And it's not easy, but it is easy. It is easy when you realize that, like he said to me, you can make your grantor, your creator, and you can become the beneficiary of your own trust, and just be positive and do something good every day. And I just want to thank you for having us on. Thank you.
That's terrific. Radagast, did you have any final comments you wanted to make? Food for thought.
Just keeping it simple that what the human organism needs to do is organize, because that's an organism is an organization. And I really feel it's through that once we get a little organized and start to recognize each other and start to actually work with each other, there's a natural immunity that will arise from being a viable organism, and the parasitic energies that a lot of this stuff represents can be resisted. It's like resisting a virus, since we're talking about viral, and I'm done.
I have to say, Radagast, you have some great logic that you bring to this program. Just have a way with words that I think people can really relate to. So your comments are so appreciated. I also wanted to know, as everybody's is, I wanted to know if the ambassador, before I make some announcements, I want to know if the ambassador had any final comments that he'd like to make.
Yeah, I would like to. I'm very happy to have both of these people on the program. I think they're contributing a lot of thoughts to thought that they can think about people, and want to thank them for coming on, and I hope they will come on again to share more information. I think it's important to take it in stages, and hopefully people can benefit with this information. And with that, I would like to say God bless you all, and see you soon.
Thanks, Mr. Ambassador. And we want to also just, thank our guests. I mean, we thank Martin very much, and we thank John. And remember, John, now this is really coming up to a funny time of the year right now. You were known for your role in Friday the 13th. And I know you're going to be busy with interviews coming close to Halloween. And I just wanted to thank you for letting us pick your brain. So it's been... see the brain. It's been a pleasure having you guys, and thank you so much for thank you so much for joining us. Okay, I'll straighten up. We just want to thank you for joining us, all of our viewers. We want to let you know that you can join us on globalmissionofpeace.com. You can go there to find more information about what we do. You can follow us on the GoldFish Report, and we're also going to include links to some of these resources in the description section of this video. And by all means, feel free to submit your questions or your comments. Share information if you like. At the goldfishreport.com. The ambassadors being funny, sharing some funny pictures. Halloween, happy Halloween, everybody. We have one more GoldFish report before Halloween, and I'm sure we're going to make it funny in some cases. We just, wish everybody, can digest this information. Feel free to go to the goldfishreport.com to the contact page and submit comments or questions. Share with us what you know. Share with us if you have other questions. We will definitely have, we invite Martin to come back and join us again. We can have more, this next time we can do a question and answer where we can be more specific and answer people's specific questions. We'll also have John come back on, and we'll have more question and answers as well. We like to get these emails. We want to get your emails. We want to get your questions. We want to know that we're giving you information and you're thinking about it. And at least, and if it's resonating with you, if you have questions, by all means submit them, and we know that at least it's reaching somebody. So having said that, we want to thank all of our guests, and we want to thank all of our viewers for joining us. And this concludes this edition of the GoldFish Report.